Let's talk about the root of the word Africa and how people automatically give things to colonizers that don't even belong to them. We clearly know that Africa, Africa. We're going to deal with that root. In language, the letter F can also be the letter P and can be the letter PH. Now, we are going to go based on history by dating Genesis, the 12th chapter. If we begin to look for a famine in the time where people would be being called Hebrew, this would bring us to a people group called Habiru, Habiru. Now, this root is going to be very essential with the ABIR, a bar. This is going to be the same as Eber. Eber, as we see in the book of Genesis, is the son of Shem. When we begin to look at Eber name, it begins to denote one who crosses over. This connotation is in reference to the Euphrates River and the Tigris, which is looked at as the landmass in not only denoted in Genesis the 12th chapter, also when it comes to it being two of the rivers that the Garden of Eden began to stream into. Therefore, when we begin to look at the landmass of Mesopotamia, ancient Babylon, Iraq, Iran, West Asia, in the time that people would be being called Habiru or Hebrew as descendants of Eber, in congruency with the famine listed in Genesis the 12th chapter, this will begin to take us to the second millennial BC. The exact dates of this famine in Genesis 12 is 2181 BC. When Abraham began to leave out of Mesopotamia, it was due to famine. He began to go into Egypt, automatically being denoted as a Hebrew, one who crosses over from one side of the Euphrates River to the other. He is also going to be known as a direct descendant of Eber. These Habiru people were also called Apiru, Apiru. Now, when we begin to remember that the letter P could also be the letter PH as well as the letter F, this is going to take us to the exact same root as Africa. We're going to focus on the AFRI or the APIR or the APHIR. When we begin to look at this root in Hebrew, it is Ephir. The Ipiru, Apiru, were called dusty. In Hebrew, the word Epher, the name Epher, Epher, literally means dusty. Epher is a son of Abraham. And out of Epher sprang the Afar people of Africa. Now, although they are not the native Puts or the native Fulani, the Philistines and the Phoenician, the descendants of Gether and the descendants of Gath from Shem, as well as the descendants of Peleg from Shem, the Afar people began to rule ancient Libya and are known as warriors. So these Ipiru people are known as the Habiru and the Hebrews. They are going to be direct descendants of Abraham via his son Ephraim. It's also essential to understand that the letter B and the letter P are linguistically related as well. So when we begin to look at the name Eber, we can begin to suggest that Epher was named after Eber. It's important to understand that when we begin to look at the Ipiru, Apiru, when we take the root of Pru in Hebrew, this is going to give us the Fe, the Resh, and the Wav. In Hebrew, this literally spells out Peru, Peru. When we begin to look at Peru dating back 6000 BC, 2500 BC, 1500 BC, and 1000 BC, we find ships coming into South America, specifically Peru. This is going to be the same reed boats that we see sailing out of Mesopotamia as well as sailing out of Egypt in these times as well. When we begin to look at the root of PHIR, this is going to take us to Ophir. Ophir is described as the landmass in the book of Genesis alongside Havilah. Havilah and Ophir are also descendants of Shem. Ophir name literally means gold, making Peru one of the land masses of gold. We will not dismiss the fact that these people were also first in Central and West Africa, North Africa, West Asia, Saudi Arabia, so on and so forth. So when we begin to look at the PHR, this is literally clearly going to take us to the root of Pharaoh in English. Now, when we begin to look at the root of Pharaoh in Hebrew, it is Parah. When we begin to look at when we look at the root of Pharaoh in Egyptian, it is Pere. And when we begin to look at Pera in Hebrew, it literally means long-haired. This is going to be the same description for the Libyan pharaohs that were ruling Egypt. And when we begin to go down into Peru in 3200 BC, we will not only see ziggurats from Assyria due to the fact that Asher is a descendant of Epher. So when these people began to leave Mesopotamia, they took their belief systems, their cultures, and their ziggurats with them. We will also begin to understand that these long-haired pharaohs were also in Peru. This will also begin to point to 100 AD, when you begin to see the long-haired rulers of the, I can't even pronounce it, y'all, y'all know, in England. They're alongside the Franks. When you begin to look at the Franks, you see that FRAN, that FRN, or the PHR, the PHRN. It's important to know that N and M are also linguistically related. And so there will be times where you begin to see Ephraim being called Ephraim, and Ephraim being called Ephraim. When you begin to look at the Franks, their name literally denotes freedom. The free Hebrews in the Greek are called libertines. And that root is going to be LBR, which is going to denote freedom. When we begin to look at the root of EPHR in Hebrew, this is going to take us to the northern kingdom of Israel, who are also called Ephraim, whom are free people all over these land masses. Taking the root of the name Ephraim brings us to Parah in the book of Genesis, the first chapter, when the good God was creating, and he said, and the Holy Spirit, Mother Wisdom, began to be the principal thing that was possessed at creation. And it began to say, be fruitful and multiply. That fruitfulness is Parah. Therefore, when we begin to look at the landmass of Afri, this landmass belongs to the dusty, the IP room, the Hebrews. This landmass was given to Abraham in 2181 BC, called Canaan. So when we begin to step back from the mindset that our colonizers has renamed everything, and we look at the roots and etymology, and even realizing that the Greek language was birthed out of Phoenician, as was Hebrew, and both of them are birthed out of the Syriac language, which comes out of Aram, whom is the son of Eber, whom are the descendants of Shem. So either way you put it, these Indo-European languages are Afro-Asiatic at its core. It's going to always be black when you scratch a white lie.